right. Good evening, good morning, or good afternoon. Um, Precious, do we have Gospel online? Okay. I don't know. Is Francis online? Did you notify him? Okay. So we have to begin. So today, let's look at the listening test. Just to confirm from you, Precious, um, we've been able to take on the reading test. Is that correct? Okay, we've also taken the speaking test, right? Okay, we've as well taken the essay training. All right, so I believe we have the listening test and the task one of your writing test. These are the outstanding sessions that we're yet to have, right? So hopefully today, by God's grace, we shall work on the listening test as much as possible. So let's see what we are able to cover. Um, let's begin. So today we shall look at the listening test. Listening test is the aspect of the IELTS test that assesses or evaluates your ability to listen to a native English speaker and provide information or answers based on what you're able to hear. In listening test, you get to listen to an audio alongside having the written version of the audio. So the audio will be playing, and you'll be required to listen and read along. Then, amidst the booklet, or while going through the booklet and listening to the audio at the same time, you're also expected to write your answers or choose from the options provided. Right? So, in listening tests, you get to do three major things at the same time. So, you get to listen, you get to read, and you also get to write at the same time. Please do not wait to listen to the audio till it ends before you begin to write your answers. Else, as soon as the audio ends, you will likely forget what has been said because exam condition will always set in. So you please, while you listen, you need to read. And what do you read? First, you are required to read the instruction. So when you read the instruction, you get to understand how your answer should come. So you get to understand if your answer should be in true or false or not given, or if your answer should be A or B or C, or the particular word that the audio will give to you to write. So please, it's important you get to read to understand the instruction. Then after reading the instruction, it is also important you read the particular number of questions as per the section you want to treat at that point in time. So you need to read the questions before the audio begins to play. So after or while you are reading, audio will definitely begin. So once the audio begins to play, you need to listen. And when you're listening to the audio, you are also meant to read along. So you'll be on the same page as the audio. And while you're listening and reading, when you hear your answer from the audio, you also need to write. So that's why you must do these three things at the same time. Now, during your listening test, we have these important keys that you are strongly encouraged to bring in to enable you have a good listening experience. So the three T's is what we call the important keys. So these three T's are the trick, also known as the bracket trick. Then we have the tips, and of course we have the techniques. All right? So let's begin. You already have an idea of what these three T's are, right? According to the reading training we had. So we're going to work on them very quickly and go to the next stage. So first and foremost, let's look at the trick. The trick which is called the bracket trick. This bracket trick works hand in glove with the instruction. So you are often meant to adhere strictly to the instruction to be able to apply the bracket trick, right? Now, how does this trick work? Let's understand this instruction. When you go through a section that says no more than one word and or a number, what does it mean? When a section says no more than one word and or a number, what does it mean? All right. So no more than one word simply means your answer can be just a one word answer. Your answer can as well be one word and a number. It also means that your answer could just be a number without a word. So this is the complete interpretation of this instruction. In case you come across this kind of instruction in or on the day of your exam or while you are practicing, the emphasis right here is that do not exceed one word and do not exceed one number. Now, how do we apply the bracket trick? If I take if I run a model, if I run a model of a listening test or an extract, presumed extract of a listening test, I would want you to listen attentively and perhaps see what you would make of what I would give to you. For instance, if you are listening and the audio says section 1, you would hear a discussion between two friends talking about their inability to catch enough sleep. First, you have some time to listen to read questions 1 to 5, and then the audio begins. And you hear something like, "Hi Tracy, hello Benny, how are you doing?" "Well, I'm not very okay. What's the problem?" "I recently have been having insomnia. Uh, it's been difficult to catch enough sleep at night." "Why? What is the problem? What's bothering you?" Well, I recently noticed that some birds came around the tree just close to the window to my bedroom. And of course, at night, the birds tend to make a lot of noise, sing around the tree. And of course, I noticed something quite fascinating about the birds." "Oh, what is it?" "Well, I noticed that the birds usually collaborate to build their nest, so it's quite an interesting sight to behold. But then it's not helping me to catch enough sleep, and that has been affecting my work at the office." What else did you learn from the birds?" And then the audio fades away. Now, if a question says, okay, so if this is the question, and according to the model we just heard, what do you think is the missing answer from what the audio may have said? Next. Okay. Could you please spell nest? Okay, nice. So it's possible that this is the correct answer, right? So the birds teamed up to build their nest. Now, when you write nest as the answer to your question number one, this is correct. This is also incorrect. Okay? Now, why is this correct and at the same time incorrect? All right, this is because according to the sentence and according to the audio or model, here it says the birds team up to build their. So these are plural indicators, right? Precious, are you following? Can you hear me? All right, so these are plural indicators. So what is the guarantee or what is the assurance that the answer should be in a singular form? Right? Now, because it is possible, arguably, based on your answer, it is possible that according to the audio, the birds, and according to Tracy, the birds teamed up to build their huge or large nest. So in that case, it is just one nest, but a massive nest. So their collaboration helped them to achieve the construction of the nest. So that's why it may be correct. But what if the audio was referring to the birds teaming up to build their individual nests on the tree? What if that's what the audio was referring to? That means this is incorrect. So it's required to appear in this format. Precious, can you see the board? So if it's referring to the birds collaborating or teaming up to build their individual nests, that means the nest in this context has to be in a plural form, right? So if you write nest as a singular word, it's going to be incorrect. But if they are referring to the nest being a large nest, just one nest on a tree, then this is correct. So how do you know exactly what IELTS examiners want? This is where you apply the bracket trick. So the bracket trick will play out in this context by way of you bringing in your bracket and putting them in, putting the S, which is the plural indicator, in bracket. Precious, do you understand this? All right, so when you have this answer in this template, what it does is if the answer that is required or expected by IELTS examiners happens to be the singular form of the word nest, this S that's in bracket would be ignored. So your answer will be considered as nest, singular. But if what they want is the plural version of the word nest, the S is in bracket. So it's going to be acknowledged. All right. So this bracket trick helps you to stay safe. It places you safe. So you don't get to miss an answer just because of an S that's either added or omitted. That's how the bracket trick works. When you are treating a section that says no more than one word and or a number. Please, do you understand this? Okay. You may as well be treating a section of the listening test and the answer may require you to write money as your answer, or the question may require you to write an amount of money which the audio will give to you as your answer. So in most cases, These are the currencies you would get to see in the IELTS questions, right? So this is dollars, this is pounds, and of course, this is euro. Now, if you are writing anything that has to do with money, you need to read the question carefully. The particular question that requires the amount of money as the correct answer. You need to read it carefully to determine if there is this symbol, for instance, on the question paper. If there is, don't write it on your answer sheet. What you need to write would be just the figure. For instance, $75.50. This is all you need to write as your answer on your answer paper. Do not write the dollar symbol. This is because it is already written on the question paper. Your task as a test taker is to provide information that is not on the question paper, that you are able to hear from the audio, or to choose from the list of options given based on what you are able to hear from the audio. So please, if this is on the question paper and you write it as a part of your answer, of course, it's going to make your answer to be incorrect, even if you put the bracket trick around it. Precious, do you understand this? Okay. Is that God's power? Okay. All right, that's great. So please, when you are treating money during your listening test, always check carefully on the question paper if the currency is written on the question paper. It may be written in the symbol form like this. It may be written in the spelled form, which is dollars, this way. So check if any of these guys is written on your question paper. Please do not write them on your answer sheet. You only get to write, or you should only write, the figure that the audio would give to you. If you write any of these guys that's already written on the question paper, it's going to make your answer to be incorrect. The only time you can write the currency symbol or the spelled version and it stands to be correct would be when there is no such information on the question paper. If it's not established on the question paper, but the audio says the currency to you and the amount, that's when you can write it on your answer sheet as a part of your answer. But when you write it, also leave it in bracket. Please, is it clear? Okay. All right, let's go to another category of the one word and or a number instruction, applying bracket tricks around it. When you are treating date of birth, okay, are they back online? Fluctuation? How about the YouTube? All right. Now, when you are treating any question that has to do with date of birth, you are often required to give just one word and a number. Right? Okay, just a moment, please. Those on the YouTube platform, just a moment. Let's try to fix the Zoom link. All right, so thank you for staying tuned. Please, I want to make an appeal. Viewing on the YouTube platform, kindly like this video, and you can always drop your questions on the comment section of this video. If you have any particular issue or question you need us to respond to, I will try as much as possible to respond to such question at the end of this session. Okay, so let's get started. So when you are treating a question during your listening test, so let's continue. When you are taking in your listening test, there will be sessions or section of the listening test where the question might be treating or requiring the caller or someone in the audio to provide his or her date of birth or information generally. So date of birth are often required. Date of births are often required for the documentation of the caller's profile or information. So in listening tests, you don't need to write the day, month, and the year. Because when you write day, month, and year, it would constitute about two numbers. Because let's assume on in the audio, let's assume the person says September the 6th, 1991. Remember, the instruction says no more than one word. So if the audio says, I was born on September the 6th, 1996, or 1991 rather, would you write this information as your answer based on what the audio has just said? Would you write that as your answer? Now, if you write this automatically, your answer is incorrect. Not because you've written the wrong thing, but because you've gone against the instruction, right? So what would you do? How would you coin your answer to align or be in consonance or conform with the instruction which says no more than one word and a number? What you need to do would be write September 6. That's all. September 6. Don't worry about the year. It's not usually required in IELTS. Just the month and the day. That's all you need. Please, do you understand this? Now, when you write this, let me also draw your attention to something. When you write this as your answer, you are correct, but you may still be incorrect having this. Because when you have September 6th or September the 6th, it's possible that the 6 here in question is this guy. Precious, can you pronounce this word? Sixth. Nice. Sixth is the pronunciation of a non-native English speaker. Sixth. But in most cases, a native English speaker will not say sixth. Rather, you hear sixth. The TH is being it gives you what we call theta in science or in English sound. Sixth. So it will be swallowed by the X. So you won't get to hear it very clearly. So when you write this, whereas what the audio pronounced was this, I hope you are aware that your answer is incorrect. So what do? You need to bring in your TH and put it in bracket. Please, do you understand this approach? That's how the bracket trick works. Is it clear to us? Okay, so please, whenever you are treating date of birth, do not forget, it is important you put in bracket the superscript of whatever figure you are writing. Put the superscript in bracket. So if it is needed, fine. If it's not required, fine. You are safe because of the bracket trick. Now, the last part would be time. When we are treating time, we talked about that. I don't know if it was during the reading test. Now we talked about the time formats, right? So you may have something like this. And you may have something like this. All right. Now let's look at these two formats. These two time formats. What do you think, or which of the formats do you think is more correct to use? Is it a format on the left or the format on the right? Precious, which do you think is more correct? Left or right? Left. Gospel, do you agree with her? Okay. So you are very correct. Now, obviously, we are very conversant with this format, right? Even on your iPhone, on your wristwatches, your digital clocks or gadgets, you'll always see this. But this is what we are working with. Now here, this time format is what you may likely see in IELTS than the other. Now, it's not like the other one is incorrect, but the other one is more of American format. This is more of British, right? So you try as much as possible to understand how this guy works, okay? Now let's quickly get started. When you are given these two formats, what do you think? What do you think each of those formats represents? Is it misbehaving? Okay. Okay, so let's look at what is the difference between these two formats. What do you think is the difference? Is there any difference right here? Gospel, what do you think is the difference between this format and this? Precious, are you there? Gospel, are you there? Okay, so let me explain. There is a difference. The physical difference is that the first format here has a 0, the second does not have. Now, another major difference is this. This first format is for 24 hours, whereas the second format here is for 12 hours. Please, do you understand the difference? So, IELTS does not test people or test clients or test takers using the 24 hours clocking, because a lot of people may not do so well. So it's usually more of the 12 hours clocking. Now, during your IELTS listening test, if time is required to be a part of your answers, if I ask you, what time is this? What time of the day is this? Precious, what time of the day is this? Morning. Gospel, what time of the day is that? Morning. Now remember, this is the 12 hours format, right? So if you call this morning, how do you write 9:25 in the evening, following the same 12 hours clocking? By 12 hours. Okay, now the 12 hours clocking does not work with 0. It's just this. This same time that you're going to see in the morning is what you're going to see at evening. The only difference is, if it's going to be morning, it will be indicated using AM. If it's going to be evening, it will be indicated using PM. Please, do you understand this? So at this point, if it is written without showing you AM or PM, if anyone asks you what time of the day, of course, it's not established until you see AM. That's when you can say it is morning. If you see PM, it's either afternoon or evening or night, right? So in IELTS, the only thing that will make you to write AM or PM alongside the time is when the question paper does not have AM or PM, or when the question paper does not carry morning or afternoon or evening or night. If you cannot find the time of the day written on the question paper, but the audio says the time of the day, please, when you write it, you are free to put your AM beside it. But remember, the bracket will make you stay safe. But if your question has AM or PM on the question paper, or if the question indicates morning or afternoon or evening or night on the question paper, please do not write AM or PM as part of your answer. Now let's look at a section that would say no more than 2 words and or a number. When a question says, or when an instruction says no more than 2 words and or a number, How might you interpret this instruction? What does it mean? Who can help us out? What does no more than two words and or a number mean? Thank you so much. So that's the true interpretation of the instruction. No more than two words and or a number. So the emphasis is your answer should not exceed two words. However, it can fall between one word to two words and a number, or just a number without a word. That's the emphasis on or of this instruction. So do not conclude that any section that says no more than two words and or a number means my answer should come in two words all through that section. No, that's not what it means. It means don't write beyond two. However, it can be one word and a number, two words and a number, or just even a number without a word. So how do we apply the bracket trick? When you hear your two-word answer, for instance, um, cracked eggs, cracked eggs. If this is what you've heard from the audio, two-word answer. Now, what is the question specifically expecting of you to write? Is it about the eggs or is it about the cracked eggs? So if it is just the eggs that the question is expecting, this cracked has to be placed in bracket. Then you leave your eggs open. So if this is established, you have made your examiner to understand that this is your major answer. However, here is the supporting word to my answer. If it's required, you can acknowledge it. If you don't need it, ignore it because of my bracket. However, all that I've written conforms with the instruction which says don't write more than two words. So I have exactly two words, and but my focus is on eggs and not the crack. But if you need a crack to complement the eggs, perfect. So that's it. Please, do you understand the application right here? Now you can also come across a section that would say no more than three words and or a number. No more than three words and or a number. What does this mean? It means your answer should not exceed three words. However, it can fall between one word and or a number, two words and a number, three words, and a number, or it can be just a number without a word. So these are the full or complete interpretation of the instruction that says no more than three words and or a number. So when you hear your answer and it says the durable bubble, the durable bubble is a three-word answer. The word they here is an article which is emphasizing on something. Durable here is an adjective which is describing the quality. Bubble here is a noun, which is the name of the item being discussed. So what you need to do is, if the question is asking about the description of the bubble, then durable is the keyword. If the question is asking about the item being described, it is bubble, right? So if the question is asking about the particular issue of discourse, it is the durable bubble. So what you need to do to stay safe is apply your bracket trick around the supporting words and leave the primary item here, which is a noun, in bracket. So when you apply your brackets, around the individual supporting words, what you've achieved is you have informed the examiner that these words in bracket are my supporting words and they are optional also. So here is my major focus. So if it is the only word that is expected or required to be correct for this question, please ignore these other words because of the bracket around them. But if you need any of these words to complement this major word, of course you can acknowledge them because they are in brackets and are optional. So that's what you've told the examiner when you apply your bracket trick. Please, do you understand this? Okay. So let's go to the next category, which is the tips. Okay, I would like to give you the listening tips verbally. If you have something to jot down or record what I'm giving, please let's begin. Can I start? All right. So in listening test, there are some tips you really need to consider to apply when you are taking on your listening test. Tip number one: read the instruction before starting any section. Read the instruction before starting any section. Tip number two: identify the number of words stipulated in the instruction. Identify the number of words stipulated in the instruction. Tip number three: read the questions before the audio begins to play. Read the questions before the audio begins to play. The next tip: write your answers while the audio is playing. Write your answers while the audio is playing. Next tip: feel free to write up to two potential answers beside the question being treated, but ensure to transfer the more appropriate one. Feel free to write up to two potential answers beside the question being treated, but ensure to transfer the more appropriate one. Next tip: endeavor to transfer all your answers to your answer sheets accurately. Endeavor to transfer all your answers to your answer sheets accurately. Next tip: note that IELTS is also testing your spelling skills. Note that IELTS is also testing your spelling skills. Therefore, always spell or write all your answers in full. Note that IELTS is also testing your spelling skills. Therefore, always spell and write all your answers in full. Next tip: Oh my God. Wow. Okay. Sorry, there was power outage. Please, can you see me? All right. So, next tip. Continue with the next question. Should you miss an answer while the audio is playing? Continue with the next tip. Should you continue with the next question rather? Should you miss an answer while the audio is playing? Then the last tip here is, if your punctuation skills and knowledge, if your punctuation skills and knowledge aren't good enough, then write all your answers in block letters. If your punctuation skills and knowledge aren't good enough, then write all your answers in block letters. Okay, in the next 60 seconds, I would like to get a feedback from you. Go through those tips. Let me know the one or the ones that you are not very comfortable with, or the one you are not very clear about in the next 60 seconds. Okay. I think you can open the slide a little bit. All right, so that's our 60 seconds. Please tell me, is there any of the tips that you are not very clear about? Is there any of the tips that you feel it's unclear to you? All right, please go ahead.
Okay, for the one where you said that we should continue to the next question if we miss like that for the if we can't get the answer in the audio, is the audio going to be played twice?
No, not at all.
So if we skip a question, how do we go back to answer it?
All right. So that tip says continue with the next question. Right? If you miss an answer while the audio is playing, what does that mean? If you are listening and then you happen to miss out an answer because maybe you didn't realize where the audio was written at some point, and then it says the answer, you never got to hear while it was playing. Do not pause your concentration. Don't pause your concentration to think of an answer you have missed. If you do that, you are going to miss even more answers, right? So this tip is saying, should you miss an answer, just keep on to the next one. Go on to the next question, all right? At the end of that section, when the audio will tell you, that is the end of your listening, that is the end of your section 1. You now have 30 seconds to check your answers. This is when you can then quickly go through that particular section, that particular question, and see if there is something you can remember, right? See if there is something you can remember about that particular audio and right. But if you try to pause your concentration just to think of something you have missed, you will definitely miss even more answers. Precious, do you understand this? So, Precious, do you understand this explanation? Hello, Precious, can you hear me? Precious, can you hear me? Is she online? Oh, she is not online. Okay. So, Precious, can you hear me now? Did you get my explanation? So, please, when you're taking on a listening test, if you miss an answer, don't try to pause your concentration because the audio does not pause for anyone to think. The audio keeps playing. So, when you miss an answer, keep on, go on to the next one. Towards the end of that particular section, you can try to think of something. Try to factor out what might have been said that you fix it in. Right? That's the best shot for you. Okay, let's go to techniques. In listening tests, we have this particular key technique which is called paraphrase. So paraphrase paraphrasing is the major issue. It is the major reason a lot of test takers tend to miss their answers. It's not as if you don't understand the English. It's not like you do not hear the audio. But at some point during the audio, you would realize, okay, at some point during the audio, while you're taking on your listening test, you may realize that you get lost. You may not know exactly where the audio is referring to. And because of that, when the answer will be said, you will definitely miss out. The reason is because when you read your questions or when you're going through the content of your listening test booklet, you tend to hope and expect that the audio should say the same words that you have read. Right? Audio will never do that. Audio has a way of using substitute words, synonyms of what is written on your question booklet to express the same information. So if you do not read along or catch up with the audio, you will definitely not know when the answer will be said. And that's why a lot of people miss out in their answers. So what happens? Audio paraphrases words written on your question paper to figures. So while you have read the words on the question, you are expecting to hear the same words. Audio will use the figure version of the words to express those information. And when it's given that, it means automatically the answer is about to be dropped by the audio, right? So if you are taking on your listening test, when you read the question before the audio begins to play, it is meant for you to factor out other possible ways that the same information may be expressed. Audio may as well paraphrase what is written in figures into words. So you need to understand that the words you have, the figures you've read may not be expressed as figures by the audio. Rather, it may use words, the words version or synonyms of those figures to express that same information. The same thing applies, words or figures being paraphrased to fractions or percentages. So you need to prepare your mind. That's why when the audio tells you, first you have some time to read questions 1 to 5, or first you have some time to read questions 11 to 15. The reason the audio is giving you that opportunity is so you can decipher or make your mind prepared for alternative means of expressing them using their synonyms, right? It may also paraphrase words or figures to general terminologies. Please prepare your mind for that. It's important, right? Gospel, do you have any question? Do you have any issues with the paraphrasing templates or formats of the audio? Okay, Precious, are you clear? Okay, so let's proceed to the next level of. You have a question, Gospel? Okay. Okay. So let's begin. The listening test has 4 different sections. So we have section 1, which is usually a dialogue. Section 2, monologue. Section 3, group discussion. And then section 4 could also be a monologue or a group discussion. Now let's begin with section 1. During your listening test, the section 1 is usually a dialogue, and 85% of the dialogues you get to record or listen to during your section 1 usually comes via telephone calls. This is when someone would phone in either to make inquiries or lodge a complaint or report a situation or whatever it is. So during your dialogues, or let me even ask, Precious, what is dialogue? How might you define dialogue? Precious, are you there? Gospel, are you there? Okay. Okay, that's perfect. So, dialogues are conversations between two persons or two parties, right? Now, during your dialogues, during the dialogues and listening tests, these are potential answers. These are potential answers. The first thing there is name. You may have noticed or realized that in section 1, name can be an answer to a particular question. Now, how does this play out? You will notice that on the question paper, a particular name is written out already. Then you see a dash beside it. So that means you are meant to complete the person's name based on the name the person would give. So you need to listen attentively to the caller as he or she gives his or her name. So if the name is a popular English name, it's not going to be spelled. You are required to know such English name. But if the name is an unpopular English name, or if the name is not even an English name at all, it's most likely going to be spelled. So during the spelling, you are meant to write. Write. Do not be sluggish when you're writing because the spelling is not usually repeated. So you need to catch up with the caller as he or she gives the name, right? Now, during the spelling of the name, if you miss a letter, your answer becomes incorrect. So you need to listen attentively. Sometimes the way they say the letters may be confusing, but one way to verify what has been spelled is when you are able to listen to the name being repeated by the narrator. That is the person receiving the call. So the person will, in most cases, say the name once more or twice more. So when the person says such name, please listen attentively and confirm that your spelling is exactly what has been pronounced. Do you understand this? Okay, so that's how to go about the name. You need to pay attention. When you spell the name, also listen to the customer, the person who receives the call. Listen to the person repeat the name once or twice. That's how you get to confirm what you've written, whether it's the same thing as what has been pronounced. Telephone numbers. If telephone number is required to be a part of your answers, please listen, because the caller may be required to give his or her cell phone number. And cell phone numbers are usually called out very quickly. And in some cases, you will notice that on the question paper, the cell phone number, the first 4 or 5 letters of the cell phone number may be written on your question paper already. So what you need to do is ensure that the cell phone number that is being called out is not repeating the first 4 digits on the question. If it is, don't write. Don't repeat the same first 4 on your answer paper. You are expected to continue from after that first 4 or first 5 digits. All right. So let's look at address. If the address is supposed to be a part of your answers, the caller may be required to give his or her residential address. And this does not mean the person is, or you are meant to give the full address that the person would call out. No. You are on the question paper, you may notice that the address is written. Rather, on the address written on the question paper, or from the address written on the question paper, you may realize that there is an omission of either the street name or the street number, right? So you would have to pay keen attention and listen to the person say his or her contact address. So with that, you'll be able to catch up with the name of with what is missing. It could be just the street name or the street number. That will be called out. That will be given to you. So you need to write as quickly as possible. Okay? Then let's look at date of birth. If date of birth is required to be a part of your answer, remember, your instruction may specify that you should write no more than one word and or a number. Right? So no more than one word or a number. Your date of birth should carry just the day and the month. So you may write 6th August or 10th November. Just the day and the month. That's all you need to write for date of birth. But remember to apply your bracket trick when you're writing your date of birth. Apply the bracket around the superscript of the day that you're writing. For instance, if you're writing 6 and you're not sure whether what was pronounced is 6 or 6. So if it is 6, you may not hear the TH very clearly. So what you need to do is, when you write your 6, you put your superscript and leave it in bracket. So that places you safe. All right, Gospel, can you hear me? Yeah, sorry, the network is really a case right here today. Okay, so that's for the date of birth. Gospel for address, you may have to listen attentively. If the address, if the part of the address that you're meant to write happens to be maybe the postal code or the street name, you just have to listen and write the street name or the code. If it is telephone number, it's going to be called out. So you need to write as quickly as the caller is giving his or her telephone or cell phone number. Now, nationality, you are expected to know different countries and how to write, how to spell nationalities, right? Let's look at an instance. Nationality. A person from Canada is called a Canadian, right? A person from Nigeria is called a Nigerian. A person from Mexico is a Mexican. A person from Germany is a German, right? So you need to know these spellings of nationalities because in listening tests, nobody spells nationalities because you are expected to know different countries and how to spell the nationality of such environment. So please, it's something you should work out. Now let's also look at email may be required to be a part of your answer. So if email is meant to be a part of your answers, you need to listen because the makeup of the email will be called out just the way telephone numbers are being called out. So you need to listen attentively. Now, what is the caller interested in? It may be to be a tour guide. It may be to participate in an excursion being planned for. It may be to take up a temporary or voluntary job. It may be to find out about hotel reservation, sharing accommodation and all that. Whatever it is, you need to listen attentively and write your answer. Then, what is the duration of the particular program the person is interested in? If it is meant to last for 4 weeks, you have to listen and write your answer. If it is meant to last for a month or 8 weeks, whatever it is, you need to listen and write your answer correctly. Then the next one, let's look at previous experience. Whatever the person is interested in, for instance, if the person wants to be or is applying for a temporary job or the person wants to be a tour guide, it is usually required that the person would establish that he or she has had a previous experience. Maybe the person has taken up such roles before, or the person has occupied such position or taken up such portfolio before. So you need to listen. The person will say, I used to be, or the person might say, I was. Those are past information, right? So you have to pay attention. Then cost implication. If a particular amount is required, you need to pay attention. You need to know how much is involved. So you need to know remember how to write money. Remember how to apply the bracket trick when you're writing money. All right? Then the next one is monologue. Monologue. What's monologue? What does it mean? How can you explain monologue to us? Gospel? It's fine. Yes, please. All right. Monologue is when a person is giving a talk, when a person is making a presentation, when a person is delivering a speech to an audience. There must be an audience. There must be listeners. That's when monologue will be said to have taken place. Right? So in listening test section 2, you may always take on monologues. So monologues are usually faster than dialogues. So you really need to listen attentively. Monologues are usually faster. Now, what are you looking out for as your possible answers to section 2, nouns. Nouns here are or is referring to name of a person, name of an animal, name of a place, name of a thing. All right. So whatever it is that the person wants to talk about, it will be introduced. If it's a virus, if it's an invention, if it's a research, if it's a particular culture, if it's a plant or a particular animal, whatever it is, it's going to be exposed. Then what is the issue about that particular thing? So you need to listen to know what it is about that thing and where was it first founded or manufactured or experienced or recorded. So you need to listen to get to know about the location. What time or period was that thing first experienced, or what time or what period was it encountered? All right. How many of them or how many people got affected? How many people benefited? Whatever it is, quantity. You need to listen to get that. What led to that particular thing? Cause. What led to it? And what impact has it made, either to the society or individuals or the world entirely? You need to listen attentively to get that answer. Now, MCQs, which means multiple choice questions. Multiple choice questions in listening tests comes with ABC. So you are often required to select or choose one or two or three correct answers from the list of options given. And the irony of your multiple choice questions in listening tests is that the audio will always talk about all the options. So for those of us who are very quick to writing an answer, expect, or you may be surprised that when you try to listen to the first option, you are hearing the audio talking about it and you quickly write it. Before you know it, the next option is being talked about and you get confused. So you should always read the instruction and understand what the instruction wants you to pick out from the audio, out of the options given. So it may be, you may be required to write or to select two letters, which are the compulsory requirements that are needed for a particular application, or what should be avoided for a certain process. So you need to look out for, out of the 5, the audio will talk about all of them, but it will indicate or specify the ones that are required or the ones that should be avoided according to the instruction. Those are the things you should write as your answers. Then let's look at maps. Maps and plans. Maps and plans are part of the listening test questions that a lot of people fail very well. And I can categorically say this is because some of us are not well grounded or we are not introduced to map reading during your primary and secondary school, even in the university. So it is a problem to locate spots or places on a map. Now, first and foremost, in map reading, you need to understand that there is what we call this guy here. Okay, Gaspar, do you know this? What do we call it? Coordinates. All right, some people call it coordinates. Some others call it navigator. Some people call it cardinal points. All right, some people call it compass. Now, what is this guy used for? For direction, right? So during your map reading, you need to understand that there is always the cardinal point or the navigator or the compass on every map. If this guy is on your desk on the day of your listening test, if this guy happens to be your question paper and your map, and you are required to locate certain spots on the map right here, The north is the top. From your position, this is the north, this is the south, this is the east, and here is the west. Now, the audio will always tell you the starting point for each particular location you have to identify on the map. Audio will tell you where to go in from. So your duty as a test taker is be observant and attentive to know where the entrance point or entry point is. So if the entry point is from the north, do not fix yourself at your natural position. You need to assume or imagine that you have moved from where you are seated and you are entering from the north. That means your position has changed. So you assume that you have turned around to come in through this point. And when that happens, your east and west will automatically change. Do you understand? So if you come in here, your east will become the natural west, your former west, which was over here, right? Then your west will move over this way to the east because you have changed your position. So always walk according to the starting point, the entry point that the audio will direct you. And another thing you need to practice to improve on your map reading is do not always rely on your eyes to read or locate spots or locations on the map. Rather, use your finger or your pen or pencil to follow the direction of the audio on the map. With that, you would always move faster. Because if you use your eyes alone, there are different locations that may distract you on the map. So you are trying to follow the audio and you are seeing something you feel is where the audio is referring to, whereas it's not. You've been attracted by a particular location. But if you focus on the directions of the audio and you're using your pen or pencil to follow it, definitely you'll be able to catch where the location is. So please always make use of these cardinal points or compass to know the entry point. Then the cost. There may be cost implication too. So you need to focus, you need to pay attention, you need to identify what it is. And when you're writing anything that has to do with money, remember if there is dollar symbol or pound or euro symbol on the question paper, whether the symbol or the spelled version, do not write it as part of your answer. Just write the figure that's given, right? So if there is no currency symbol or the spelled version on the question paper, that's when you should write it. As far as the audio has said it, you can write it. But when you write it, please remember to put it in bracket. Let's go to section 3. Section 3 right here is all about group discussion. Now, group discussion usually involves about 3 speakers or more. So what are the things you want to look out for during your section 3? You want to find out the names of the discussants. Who are the people talking? They will always exchange pleasantries amongst themselves, or the narrator would give you their names. For instance, you could hear something like, section 3, you would hear a discussion between 3 students, Mary, Ann, and Jane. So they will always introduce their names to you. But if they don't, then you get to know the names of the speakers when their conversation begins. Hi, Jane. Hello, Anne. They will exchange pleasantries among themselves and call each other by the name. So that's how you get to know the names of the discussants. Then, issue of discourse. What have they come together to talk about? They will always talk about it. They will always establish what they have come to talk about. Now, the target audience. Who are they looking to meet? Let's say, for instance, they want to carry out a survey or they want to have some questionnaires. They will usually have a target audience. There will always be a particular age bracket of people that they would like to examine. So they usually have an age bracket. So it could be people between 45 maybe to 55 or 60. Here is the age bracket of people they feel we give them the information they seek. Right? Then location. Where are they considering going to meet the people that they have earmarked to have their survey on, right? So they would agree on a particular location to go to and what time is best to meet such persons at that particular spot. So they will also agree. Then how many people do you think we should talk to? How many people do you think we should examine? How many people do you think we should interview? So they will agree. But what is the financial implication of doing this? Our logistics, printing out questions, putting facilities or resources together, moving from one location to another, and all of that. They're going to analyze all of that and come to a particular conclusion on the cost implication. Now, some questions may require you to identify what one of them feel, individual view. What does Anne feel about a particular person that they met? What is Anne's thought about such person? It could also, you might also find a question that requires you to identify their unanimous agreement. All right, their collective conclusion. What is it that they have collectively agreed on? So you want to listen attentively and get all of that, right? Then you would also want to hear their final solution, perhaps how they would put all their information and data together and how they will make their presentation. So these are things you want to look out for during your section 3, right? Then let's look at the fourth section. Fourth section, let's look at monologue, or it could be a group discussion as well. But in most cases, monologue. One person will do the talking. Now, there is something you want to understand about the section 4. It's usually a lengthy section, very long. And in most cases, it covers questions 31 to 40. So in some cases, it will just run straight. It will run straight from 31 to 40 non-stop. And you will see some sections between 31 to 40 that the gist will be so lengthy that if you're not careful, you get carried away by the gist and you won't know when they've continued and they've given some answers. So what do? You need to stay woke. You need to be so focused. You need to understand that your mission is to get your answers and go your way and not to be carried away by the gist. So when you get each answer, leave that particular spot and go to the next point where another answer is to be provided. That's your target. Then another trick, another way to manage section 4 is when the audio tells you, first you have some time to read questions 31 to 40. Do not try to read from 31 to 40. You won't be able to complete it. You may start from 31, and by the time you get to 35, the audio will begin. So what happens? You go back to 31. In other words, you don't know what is written between 36 and 40. So here, you'll be totally lost by the time the audio begins. So the best thing to do is read questions 36 to 40 first. Leave 31 to 35. Read questions 36 to 40 first. So when you are reading from 36 to 40, by the time you get to 40th question or thereabout, the audio will begin. Then you quickly rush back to 31. Naturally, you'll be able to manage the introductory part of a particular session. You'll find there's usually a way to manage around it. So you'll be able to manage that 31 to 35, right? Averagely or confidently or comfortably. But if you do not know what happens or what is written in 36 to 40, then there are high tendencies that at this point you get lost. You get lost. One, you get tired out. Two, you get bored. So you may not have that high interest to follow the audio. And the consequence would be you will lose some marks from there. So please always go by reading questions 36 to 40 first. Go by reading questions 36 to 40 first, right? So when you do that, as the audio tries to begin, you quickly rush back to 31. So going back to 31, you find there will always be a way to manage from 31 to 35. Then when you are reading, or when the audio is treating sections or questions that you have not read before, you are unfamiliar with such questions, what you want to do is check if there are headings. All right, if there are headings that introduces or that would introduce each of those areas, note those headings so that if the audio talks about them, even if you were lost initially, once you hear the headings, you will quickly go to that part and continue. Always read the first two words before the blank and the last word or last two words before the after the blank. These words will always be talked about before the answer will be given. So that's a way of um, putting you on your toes. That's a way of giving you heads up before the answers are said. Right? So please let's know if you have any question on listening test. Gospel, do you have any question? Is everything clear to you? Okay. Those viewing from the YouTube platform, if you have any question, please do well to drop your question on the question or comment section of the video. And you are also free to share the link or inform your friends about the platform, the channel. If you have any reason to get or to seek for more clarifications, that's where you can drop any of that. So thank you so much, Gospel, and we apologize for network fluctuations, power outage, and everything. Nigeria is a wonderful place.